let's go into the last category here. And this is the phlegmatic, the steady relator, the S of the disc profile. Let's see how it relates to the doctor, the staff, and the patient. Okay, so phlegmatic. In the emotional category, the strengths are low-key personality, easygoing and relaxed, cool, calm, and collected, patient, well-balanced, consistent life, quiet but witty, sympathetic and kind, keeps emotions hidden, happily reconciled to life, all-purpose person. Okay, that's the emotional category. What's the negative component of the emotional, of the phlegmatic? Unenthusiastic, fearful and worried, indecisive, avoids responsibility, quiet, will of iron, selfish, too shy and reticent, too compromising, self-righteous. So that's the negative category of the phlegmatic emotion. Let's go to the work category. So the strengths in the work category for the phlegmatic are the same, is competent and steady, peaceful and agreeable, has administrative ability, mediates problems, avoids conflicts, good under pressure, finds the easy way. What's the negative part of the phlegmatic personality relative to work? Not goal-oriented, lacks motivation, hard to get moving, resents being pushed, lazy and careless, discourages others, would rather watch. Let's go into the friend category of phlegmatic, the strength. Easy to get along, pleasant, enjoyable, inoffensive, good listener, dry sense of humor, enjoys watching people, has many friends, has compassions and concerns. What's the negative aspect in the friend category? Dampens enthusiasm, stays uninvolved, is not exciting, indifferent to plans, judges others, sarcastic and teasing, resists change. Okay, so how does this relate to the doctor, a staff, or a patient? Well, if we have a doctor, I'll just tell you mostly, it'll be very rare that you'll have self-employed people that are high phlegmatic, because when you're self-employed, it takes a lot of confrontation. You got to go through a lot of obstacles when you're self-employed. The phlegmatic personality does not like confrontation at all. They're very agreeable. They don't like confrontation. So it is very rare to see somebody who has a real high passive phlegmatic that's self-employed, because it's counterintuitive. Second, associate doctors can be very good if they're phlegmatic, they can be very good because they just like to get along. They don't care about, being the boss or the leader and having to overcome obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And that's essentially what you have to do when you're self-employed. Well, so they work really well as associate doctors. Let's go to the staff. Now the staff, remember, I'm talking about extreme. I'm talking about if this is the primary personality, because we all have all of this to different degrees, okay? So if we're talking about the person who's high primary phlegmatic, that's what is, they wouldn't be good at the front desk, because we're dealing with confrontational topics. We're dealing with time and money. Now, the insurance department, they could be good at if they had if the secondary characteristic was melancholy or choleric. But it's really rare that it's choleric. But if their secondary characteristic was melancholy, that would be very good also for the insurance person. Because insurance isn't confrontational, it's detailed, it's not confrontational. They would be good doing therapies. They'd be good doing therapies. They would not be good at marketing. Marketing is confrontational. Phlegmatics, you will hardly ever see, if you go to any marketing agency, or sales. Sales is confrontational. Advertising is confrontational. You won't see very many phlegmatics in those categories, or they'll play a secondary role. So from a marketing perspective, this person won't like the confrontation that it takes to market. So that's the role of how it is. Now remember, we're talking about extremes if these are primary. Remember, all of us have these in different degrees. What we pay attention to is primary and secondary, and is it over 50th percentile? That's where the most influence is. That's what we pay a lot of attention to. Not if it's 10 or 20% or whatever, and it's a fourth characteristic. That's not going to mean much. So it's always primary, secondary, okay? Now, what does this mean for the patient? Well, this is the patient everybody likes. This is the person that gets along with everybody. This is the person that doctors think are the easiest to deal with, but they're the hardest because they can't make a decision. These primary phlegmatics are not decision makers. They marry decision makers. So the doctor will think that this patient's agreeing with everything, and then at the end, when he asks for, does the report of findings, this is the patient that'll say, it sounds good, let me check with my spouse. And then that's the end of it. There's too big of a paradigm now for the spouse. But this is the one that the doctor thinks is easiest, and it's the hardest. And like I said, the choleric is the easiest, but the doctor thinks he's the hardest because they're abrasive. So from the patient's perspective, what I have to do is we need a lot of reassurance. When I do patient education and when I talk to phlegmatic patients with time or money, I have to repeat myself. I mean, you got to repeat yourself numerous times. Why? Phlegmatics like reassurance. So all the key points when I do patient education, I've got to repeat. And I can never do a report of findings with a sanguine alone. I have to have their spouse or their significant other in, because I already know they're the decision maker. So this becomes very important. So same at the front desk when a patient comes through. This is the person that'll be agreeable. They'll be friendly, agreeable. Everybody in the office will like this person. But they won't be able to make decisions with time or money. You have to have their significant other in, and that person has to be educated to come to the decision with time or money. Now, once the decision has been made with time or money in the report of findings, this person's good as gold. They're steady Eddie. They'll be there like clockwork. Okay? So they're great patients. They get along well. They're easy to get along, but they're not decision makers. So you got to get to the decision maker to clear out time and money. So this is how the phlegmatic personality relates to the staff. And let me share with you some interactions. This helps a lot with staff members. So let's say I have a staff member who's a high phlegmatic and a high choleric. Well, I know the choleric likes to be in control. I know the phlegmatic doesn't, and they're easygoing. So it's very easy for the choleric to railroad the phlegmatic, just naturally, not even purposefully. So as a manager, I got to be real careful of that. If I see I got a choleric staff member and I got a phlegmatic, it's real easy for that person to railroad this one, and they'll take it. They'll take it for the most part, but I can't let that happen as a manager. Same thing if I want something done. If I want something done, I'm never going to put a primary sanguine and a primary phlegmatic to be responsible for it. They are not the people that get stuff done. They like the process. They're not the goal-oriented get from point A to point B. They like to stay in the middle. And so I would never put either one of them. Now remember, I'm talking about high. And remember, most people don't have one personality. Okay, so I want to temper that. But I'll never put these two people in charge of anything. They won't get it done. They'll just go around and round and round in circles. Nothing will get done. Same with the choleric. To put a choleric and a melancholy in charge. That'll be confrontation. One wants control, one wants to be right. So I either have to separate them out within the category or just not put them together in the same category. As a manager, I have to know this. So some of these combinations work real well. I'll put together a choleric and a sanguine, a melancholy sanguine. Some of them work real well. But I got to pay attention to the things that don't work well. And this has helped not just me and myself learning my strengths and weaknesses, but my staff. It helped me to understand staff members that would be better in one position versus another position. It helped the staff members understand themselves, their strengths and weaknesses. It helped the staff members to understand the other personalities in the office, so they wouldn't get as offended as easy, or they'd be more understanding, or they would know how to talk to them in a different way to make it work. Because generally speaking, here's the rule. If you don't know anything, 50% of these people you won't get along with naturally. 50% you will. 2 out of 4 of them you'll get along with. 2 out of 4 of them you won't. So me as a chiropractor, I don't want to just get along with 50% of my patients. I want to get along with all my patients. I don't want to just get along with 50% of my staff. I want to get along with 100% of my staff, you see? So when you don't know this, you'll naturally only agree with 50%, and 50% you won't. But when you do understand this, as the doctor or the staff member, we can get along with the doctor, we can get along with staff members, we can get along with other staff members, we can get along with patients. We now understand, okay? So this plays a major role in the office, understanding personality profiles for each individual jobs relative to their responsibilities, what's needed for that job. Some people don't have the natural personality profiles for what's needed in that job. It's like trying to mix oil and water. It won't work. It doesn't matter how much training you do. It won't work. And the people won't be satisfied. Eventually, they just won't be satisfied. And that's, by the way, that's what gives a lot of satisfaction, is when you match an occupation or a job with the natural strengths of the individual. That is what creates tremendous job satisfaction, tremendous productivity. And that's a major category as a manager chiropractor that I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to get a team together that's best in their individual job responsibilities, and how to interact with each other, and how to understand and interact with all the patients. That's what we want to do. So this has tremendous benefit. Now, I recommend the doctors take the disc online. Now, I told you this particular one that I have here is it's only graded for the positives. The disc online grades for what was positive and negative, so it's exponentially even way more accurate than this. It gives a tremendous understanding. It's really amazing. And I always say you have to read it 3 times. When you get the printout after you take it, you have to read it 3 times over 3 different days. The very first time you read it, you'll disagree with everything negative on there. And then after a while, I had to come to the realization. I'm like, yeah, I am a choleric personality, and these negative traits, yeah, they are me. But here's the good news. I learned to work around them. My first staff member was with me for 17 years. My second one was with me for 5, went off to college, left for 5 years, and then came back for another 7. So I was good at keeping people, but I tell you, I never would have been able to do that if I didn't understand the basics. And this is one of the major basics of employment and team members and putting people together. You have to understand the basics of personalities relative to the job, relative to each other, and relative to the doctor, and relative to the patient. It significantly enhances everybody's relationship as a team. Creates a lot less confusion and makes things work easier. So having said that, let me leave it like that. My last recommendation is I do recommend that the doctor and the staff, and the doctor should take care of this, is go online, and you can just Google disc personality profile, and you can take any one of them. You always take the classic version, because they have some that are real specific, like for work or this or that. You don't want this, you just want the classic version. And I recommend the doctor take it. I recommend the staff take it. And matter of fact, that's one of the things we like to do when we hire staff members. Before we actually even offer the position, we'll have them take that disc personality profile online, because it'll tell us a lot about their strengths and weaknesses relative to the job that's needed. What are the strengths and weaknesses of that job? Will it naturally match? That becomes very important for job satisfaction.